Public Agenda is a nonprofit organization that does research to find out people's opinions on important issues. This organization used two research techniques, surveys and focus groups, to collect information. From the surveys, they obtained statistical information from large groups of people. This data is shown on graphs in the study. In focus groups, they talked directly with smaller groups of people. Quotes from those discussions are also included in the text. Most nonfiction writing includes features that show how the author has organized the text. The heading or title of this piece is "A Place to Call Home." Notice the subtitle written smaller below that gives more information about the topic. Identify the subtitle. Explain what information it provides. Pause while you think. The subtitle, "What Immigrants Say Now About Life in America," indicates that the text will give the opinions of immigrants, in their own words, about life in America. Subheadings are headings within the text that introduce a new topic or section. Notice the subheading Part 1, The Right Move. Reread lines 15 through 34. Identify the subheading and use textual evidence to explain what the right move refers to. Pause while you think. The right move refers to the fact that, according to this study, the majority of immigrants believe they made the right decision in moving to the United States. By that standard, immigrants in America are clearly happy with their choice. More than 7 in 10, 71%, report that if they could do it all over again, they'd still come to the United States. Graphs provide visual support for the data and conclusions in the text. Review the information provided in the circle graph on page 43. Analyze and explain the connection between the circle graph on page 43 and the author's conclusion in lines 40 and 41 that immigrants buy into American society. Pause while you think. The text says 76% say that the United States is a unique country that stands for something special in the world. The graph shows visually that a large part of the whole shares this view, which supports the author's conclusion. This selection has another type of text feature that can help readers understand the text. Notice the lines in large type after line 81. This statement summarizes the information that follows it. Reread lines 82 through 87. Cite evidence that supports the statement in large type. Pause while you think. One of the consistent themes was of immigrants being surprised by how much work it takes to succeed in the United States. Reread lines 88 through 92. What conclusion can you draw from this quotation? Does that conclusion support the large print summary statement printed on the page in blue? Pause while you think. It takes much more work to make a living in the United States than immigrants expected. This supports the statement that life here is not what they thought it would be. Readers often draw conclusions as they read. To draw conclusions, readers make judgments based on evidence in a text along with their own experience and reasoning. Notice the blue summary statement just below line 115. What evidence in the text that follows the summary statement below line 115 shows that it is a valid conclusion? Pause while you think. The more recent study shows that immigrants have closer ties to their birth country than they did 7 years ago. Evidence. Compared with the results from 2002, more immigrants say that they spend time with people from their birth country. The number of immigrants who tell us that they call home at least twice a week rose 12 points. Notice the bulleted list on page 46. A bulleted list is a list of related and equally important points in a text. Reread lines 139 through 155. Analyze the connections among the bulleted items and locate evidence in the text that supports them. Pause while you think. All items in the list are examples of how recent immigrants have weaker ties to the United States than those in the past. The text that introduces the bulleted list states, "Their ties to the United States aren't as strong." For example, an author's purpose is his or her reason for writing. Authors choose details and information to support their purpose. Reread lines 174 through 180. What do the details about immigrants' respect for American laws and customs suggest about the author's purpose? Why might the author have included this information? Pause while you think. The authors want to share information that shows the majority of immigrants respect the law. The authors may have wanted to acknowledge the conflicting viewpoint that many immigrants break the law. Drawing a conclusion involves making a judgment based on evidence, experience, and reasoning. Remember, this research study presents evidence drawn from surveys and focus groups. The authors have used this evidence, along with experience and reasoning, to draw conclusions about immigrants' attitudes. Reread lines 195 through 210. What conclusion can you draw from this evidence about immigrants' attitudes towards language? Pause while you think. Immigrants recognize the importance of speaking English for themselves and their children in order to succeed in the United States. They note that it is very hard to get a job without knowing English, and that it is more important for schools to teach immigrant children English as quickly as possible than it is to teach them other subjects. The text has provided several comparisons between a 2002 survey and one taken in 2009. A bar graph, such as the one shown on page 49, is one way to show how things change over time. Notice the key at the top of the graph. It shows what each color bar represents. Notice the percentages at the bottom of the graph. They indicate the percentage of respondents in each group who agreed with each statement. Examine the bar graph on page 49. Identify what each color bar represents. How does the graph connect to the conclusion stated at the top of the graph? Pause while you think. Red represents the recent immigrants from the 2009 survey. Blue represents recent immigrants from the 2002 survey. Each of the three statements indicates a closer tie to the birth country. For each statement, the red line is longer than the blue, supporting the author's conclusion by showing that more 2009 respondents than 2002 respondents agreed with the statement.